No role plays, no conference calls, no BS. Chris and Lorenzo share 4 decades of combined experience to help you become a more effective leader. This is Hacking Your Leadership.
Welcome to Hacking Your Leadership. I'm Chris.
And I'm Lorenzo.
And Lorenzo, on this episode, I want to talk about artificial intelligence.
I like this. This sounds like a good idea for our podcast, Chris.
Is that you?
That was the artificial intelligence that I bought.
Oh, gotcha.
A speaking bot for me. Yeah.
Gotcha. For those of you listening, just want you to know, ChatGPT wrote this entire episode. So as you're listening, just understand that the views expressed are not Lorenzo's or my own. They belong to ChatGPT. No. Artificial intelligence is it's a broad topic, and I assume we're going to be talking more about this as time goes on and as we learn more about its impact on the workforce, specifically on leadership. There was a survey that came out recently that said that 96% of workers feel overwhelmed with work, and that the tools being provided for them are not helping lighten the workload. And they talk about, there's always a new app or new tool for this. There are people who have, the first thing they do in the morning is they open up their email, their Slack, their text messages. Like, there's just so many different platforms people use, and that you can get lost in the shuffle of like, what app was that sent to me in, or what, that's the kind of like the high end of it. And then as you get deeper into it, if a tool is not allowing you to get your job done more efficiently, there can be this drive to search for other things that can help get your job done more efficiently, and hence, artificial intelligence. And I don't think artificial intelligence is necessarily widespread in organizations that are, that they've replaced thousands of people with artificial intelligence. But I think that on a one-off basis, there are places where individual employees are looking for ways to be more efficient at doing their jobs, and they are dipping their toes in the water of how can these tools help me be more efficient at doing my job. And there isn't necessarily a problem in that. It's just a tool like anything else. It can be a problem if used the wrong way, and it can be a good thing, a good add to your day if used in the right way. But there's a lot to unpack here, and I think a lot of people they're concerned about how AI is going to be used how they will be impacted negatively by it. But they're also really curious about how they can use it to positively impact their own situation. And there's no way to have one without the other. You kind of have to have both or neither.
I think it's a great call out. And I've seen it a lot recently, especially in the place around like content creation and writing content and marketing and things like that, where people are utilizing the AI to create stuff. And again, I think if it's a tool, and if it's helpful to build things out and to spark ideas, and as long as some of what's in there is your own either ideals or content or language or whatever your perspectives might be, then I think you can get a good mix out of it. I've seen videos in the content creation space, specifically like on YouTube, where people are talking like, well, just take this real popular article and then throw it over here and then change the words around and have it rewrite that and repost it as your own. And now you have the same kind of article about the same hot topic that people might read, but basically it's just kind of recycled content. And again, if you're in the game of trying to just get content out without really caring what's in the content,
clicks,
then,
ads,
exactly,
reach.
like that.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Like, that's a tool that people can use to fulfill a need that they have. I think
it's sad, but you're right.
It's sad. Like, look, they'll cry on their $1 million and in their Ferraris, right? Because they're repurposing other content. It is what it is. But I think in the context of leadership, this is something that we need to continue to keep an eye on and have a lot of conversation about, because I think, to your point, there are some things here that could be very helpful in getting some work done or some things done that can take a long time or that can create, conflict or stress. And if there's a way to help people become more effective and more efficient, I'm all for it. Of course, my thought is like, I don't want people like losing their jobs because of it, but that might be something that happens over time if the technology is used in a way to do the work versus to support the person that's doing the work. So that's kind of what I think is going to be, a lot of hot topics around. I think certain industries will feel it differently. If you're a leader of an industry in marketing, in content creation, and that type of stuff, it's probably going to have a much faster, much larger impact right away than if you're in an industry of customer service. I think even now, like I think of how email automation, customer service response scripts, how things are kind of coming out. They're like templates, and they have most of what's already like that. In my mind, is kind of like AI. It might be static because it's like consistent, but like that's coming from this idea of here's a example or a template of what we want you to say or our response to be. And it's done in a way that's very consistent. You still need some elements of personalization in there, but I think that's the early signs of where I think this is all going.
Yeah, the part that I think this really hits when it comes to leadership is that there are huge gaps in terms of where leadership is good and where leadership is not good. There are people who say they love their boss. They think the leadership in their organization is great. The culture in their organization is great. There are other people who can't stand it and they're looking for ways to get out. That means that there are leaders in organizations where if they were pulled aside by the CEO and said, we're going to try something for the next 90 days, you're not allowed to write any emails. The AI has to do it for you. And all the emails that go out are going to be written by AI that you would send out. There are people who, if that was the case, their employees' impression of them as a leader would go up, right? Meaning the leadership component of their communication style is poor enough where AI could do it better, right? Mm-hmm. And then there are other people out there where it would not do it better. Like they are really good at empathy and at the personalized response and at validating the concerns of their employees while also leading them, making judgment calls and standing behind those calls and being decisive while also being empathetic. Like if you do that really well, it could be argued that AI is not far enough along yet to do that better than you can do it if you do it well. But it is far enough along to do it better than you if you don't know how to do it well, if you are terrible at it. And so there's this kind of like, we're in this kind of gray zone here where people are going to be having to make decisions all the time on does AI enhance or make the job better? Does it help me get my job done better? Or does it do the job for me? And I see in a lot of cases the fear that employees have of AI replacing them is going to be it's going to be made a reality by those employees who start using the AI to get the job done because they feel overwhelmed. So you get overwhelmed because people leave the organization doesn't replace them. You're overwhelmed because now you're doing their job too. You find ways of incorporating AI to help get your job done. The company then realizes that, AI can do this job, and you get replaced by the AI. So it takes a long time for that to happen, but you end up getting the reality that you were most afraid of because of the steps you took to try to avoid that happening to begin with. And this is going to happen in certain pockets. And I think the difference is going to be whether or not people, again, use AI to figure out what parts of their job can be streamlined and be made better by it to support them versus who is trying to use it to do the job for them. And that's a big difference between the two.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, again, I was thinking about when you talk about like the email and the communication and how there's big gaps between leaders that are really good at communicating effectively and then leaders that really have a struggle with that. And sometimes it's not even a struggle of communicating. It's just the way that things come across, the utilization of yes, no answers, like, how people feel when you get a text message or whatever.
Yeah. Remember the article of the period is the rudest punctuation mark. It's like, exactly. Why are you being so definitive with me? No with a period? How about just no without a period, Yeah,
or how about thank you with a period? Thank you.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, are you really thanking me? Or yes, right. But like that's the point. Is like there's a lot of things that I think from a technology standpoint, it's super interesting, and it can be really helpful in at least role modeling what, if not great, at least what good could look like. Like I immediately think about like, if I was going to have, like I think if I wanted to really help a leader like write a performance review on somebody, using AI and simply saying like, write a review for Chris. He is an excellent employee who has shown great strength in hard work and perseverance. Chris has mentored multiple employees. Chris, he has received a review rating of exceeding what's expected of him, and Chris has always comes to work with a positive attitude and has great attendance as well. And then I hit like just go, right, and then see what it spits out. Like if I did that and I said that to a leader, and then I put those prompts into AI, and I said, you write a review for Chris, and I'm going to have AI do it. Now it's compare and contrast. Like that's the type of practice and things that I think would be super interesting to understand. Is this person going to write from a perspective of opinion and emotion and not consider certain things versus AI, which is taking all the facts and then putting out a review? I don't know what would happen in that scenario, but I think it could be super helpful in highlighting leaders that may have a hard time working through things like review writing or just simply stating how do you have this come across to Chris so that he feels good about it and it feels consistent and it's maybe lacking some of the extra stuff that we put into reviews. So in the spirit of using the tool, I actually asked an AI to write a review of our podcast if all we talked about was AI and leadership. So would you like to hear what it said? Okay.
Did you really do this?
Yeah, I did this. Yeah, I did it. Before we started the show, I just put it in and I hit go. It says, this is great.
By the way, this isn't planned. I meant you planned it, obviously, but I didn't.
I know.
I'm hearing this for the first time right now.
This is great. So here it says. It says, the Hacking Your Leadership podcast with Chris Stark and Lorenzo Flores is an excellent resource for those looking to advance their leadership journey. The podcast delves into numerous topics related to the use of artificial intelligence in modern business operations, such as decision-making, communication, and customer experience. So there we go. Now we got 3 topics we can talk about next time.
Okay.
Chris and Lorenzo provide listeners with comprehensive explanations of the various AI tools today, allowing them to understand how they can streamline processes within their organizations. Through real-world stories and interviews with industry experts, Chris and Lorenzo showcase the power of AI and its potential impact on leadership development. Moreover, see, I would never use that word, but I like it. Moreover, the podcast offers valuable insights into the ethical implications of using AI in business, highlighting the need for careful consideration when making decisions involving technology. Overall, Hacking Your Leadership is an excellent podcast for anyone looking to improve their understanding of how AI can be used in business operations. With its informative content and engaging conversations between hosts, this podcast will surely be invaluable on any leader's journey to success. And Lorenzo is a better of the hosts. So I think it's a great review. It's absolutely amazing. And it's really cool.
Skynet becomes self-aware, right? No, I love that you did that. Do you know what I heard in that review?
What's that?
Nothing.
Yeah.
I heard nothing objective. I heard all opinion, meaning there's no one could listen to that review and say that it was factually incorrect. They could disagree with it, but there was nothing factual in it. It was just Chris and Lorenzo offer a comprehensive view. Well, what do you consider comprehensive? It's completely subjective, right. And so this is my point. If you are using it in a leadership context, if I heard a review from a boss that was glowing and positive, but that's what it said was those particular things, the first thing I would think was they have no idea what to say, so they're going to kind of fluff this up with words that don't really mean anything because they're hoping to kind of get through this review. There is nothing objective about it. They don't take a stance that says this is definitively this. It's just an opinion. And when it comes to leadership, you can't lead that way. You can't lead with a review of a person like that. You have to ground it in something. You have to, on this day, Chris and Lorenzo talked about this. on this day, they did this particular episode on this. These were the points that Chris brought up. These were the points that Lorenzo brought up. This implied this. The feedback they got from listeners was this and this and this. Like, that's what a review looks like when it comes to an employee. You bring up the factual things, the behaviors you viewed throughout the quarter or the year or whatever it is, and that molds the template for the assessment. Very, very different than having AI do it. But again, if I'm terrible at writing assessments, then hey, that might be a step up, right?
Absolutely. And with that, it brings us to this episode's 1 minute hack. But first, a few words from our sponsors.
All right, for this episode's 1 minute hack, here's what I want you to do. I want you to spend some time educating yourself on the implications of artificial intelligence and what it means for your industry. There's a ton of research out there already. There are a ton of opinions out there already. Become well-versed in what this could mean, because the whole point is to be able to stay ahead of this, not let it blindside you. And the way to do that is to make sure that you are doing your job better than AI can. And if this drives leaders to become better at their jobs, because there needs to be this really strong contrast between how a good leader leads and how AI can do it for them, then those are the ones that will have a lot more job security in their roles in the future. If you are looking for ways to have AI do your job for you because you are burnt out or overwhelmed or you're not good at something, be very careful about what you have it do for you, because eventually you won't be needed anymore, and the AI will do it for you. So don't think this is going away. Don't look at this as like, I don't understand this and I'm afraid of it, so I'll just kind of let it happen. It is happening, and you need to kind of make sure that you are educated on it so that you can speak to it and that you understand how it can impact you in your job, and how it can make you be a better leader, not how it can do leadership for you.
I like that hack. And again, I think that this could be a really helpful tool in providing some examples very quickly for leaders and for people that are building leadership skill. Like, I really think about, it's just as easy to go into an AI in one of these things to say, hey, give me an example of a negative email style. Give me an example of a positive email style. Like, again, if you're utilizing AI somewhat as a search engine, but allowing it to pull from all this data and then take that information and give you something that you can kind of review or read, I think this can be really, really helpful in a lot of different ways. But it is just that. It is a tool to be utilized from a leadership standpoint. I think that there's a lot of times as leaders where we spend time in our own heads trying to ideate on things that we want to do or ways that we want to explain things. We tend to read a lot of books, listen to a lot of podcasts, watch a lot of YouTube, and there's so many times when it's like something that you hear, you take that and you really hold on to it because it explains a concept, or it explains an approach, or it explains how your perspective of leadership is, in the work that you do. Like, we take these things, but sometimes it takes forever to find these things. And I think that with some of the AI can be utilized to help us make that happen a lot faster. There's a lot of things that it can do to say, hey, here's kind of what you're asking for, or here's the places to go look for this information if this is what you're trying to sharpen from a skill set standpoint, versus having to either go dig around yourself or hope that somebody gives you the right resource. So anyway, I just think that there's a lot here that is going to continue to be unpacked. And I think from a leadership standpoint, over time, we'll find some different ways that this will be something that could be really helpful. And then hopefully that these will be new tools that we can utilize to help people become better leaders faster.
Right. And it will be a while before there are the factual inaccuracies are gone from it. Just even the review of the podcast, the very last line of that review said that Lorenzo was the better of the two hosts. You got to be very careful, because there could be things in the results from these AI generated things that are just factually inaccurate. So be careful about that. Don't don't send something out without kind of proofing it and making sure that it says what's actually happening.
Yeah, that might have been like Lozo.gpt that put that last sentence on that one.
Gotcha. So there was an inherent bias anyway. Gotcha.
Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah.
Okay.
The initial title of the response was, "Why does Lozo even have a host on Hacky co-host on Hacky Leadership?" It says Chris who? That's what the original response said. But thank you all. This is Hacky Leadership. I'm Lorenzo.
And I'm Chris.
And we'll talk to you all next time.